Lauri Markkanen is dominating for the Finland national team, and his NBA trade value has skyrocketed. Today, we're talking about where Lauri Markkanen could be traded if the Jazz decide to trade him. Lauri Markkanen has been dominating for Finland. They currently are in the quarterfinal and will play Georgia on Wednesday. They have been pretty much carried by Lauri Markkanen. Yes, there's other contributors, and it's not just Lauri, but Lauri has been playing amazing. They just beat Serbia in the round of 16 and upsetting Nikola Jokic. This has ultimately made Lauri Markkanen skyrocket, and Lauri Markkanen had lost almost all of his trade value. Of course, if he became available, he would have had value, but this just makes him so much more valuable because it shows teams that when given the ability to actually compete, unlike Utah's giving him, he can be great. Lauri Markkanen has never played in the playoffs, right? Because he played for the Bulls, the Timberwolves when they were both bad. Played for Cleveland the year before they got Donovan Mitchell. Obviously, he was included in that deal, and he's been on Utah ever since. So where could he be traded? Obviously, the first team is the LA Lakers. They've been talking about this for a while. The Lakers want him. The the thing that I would want Utah to do is they're gonna have three options. They can A, trade Lauri Markkanen, B, try to be good. Like play him, don't rest him to fake injuries, don't trade players at the trade deadline to become worse. Or C, which is probably what they're going to do, hang on to Lowry, waste another year of his career, say he's always injured, and trade to tank at the trade deadline. And while the Jazz being bad makes tons of sense this year because of AJ Darbinson, because of Cameron Boozer, they uh if the Jazz are bad again, it's just gonna ruin the culture around Utah. It's going to waste another year of Lowry's career, where he is clearly still one of the best basketball players in the world. So where could they trade him? I want him to be traded, and I'm saying that because from the perspective of Lauri Markkanen, I'm sure he doesn't want to be traded. He does want to win though, right? He probably doesn't want to be traded because players don't like being traded. However, if he knew Utah was going to tank for the next year, maybe 2 years, I'm sure he would request a trade because while he might think that, Lauri Markkanen needs to be moved. And where could he go, right? You have the LA Lakers. And what I like about this for Utah is they would, in this deal, almost guaranteed be getting Austin Reeves. And I think if Utah trades Lowry, they need to trade him for a younger player who is good because they have so many draft picks. They have so many project players like Cody Williams. They need to get players who are good but fit the timeline, right? Lauri Markkanen is really, really good, but he does not fit the timeline for the Utah Jazz, and that's why they need to trade him, right? So if in this trade the Jazz could potentially get Gabe Vincent, Maxi Kleber, both just salaries they're expiring. They would get Austin Reeves and then either Jared Vanderbilt or Rui Hachimura for salary. And they would also get one future first round pick and one future first round pick swap. This would be good for the Jazz because not only would they be getting valuable Lakers picks, and honestly they aren't as valuable because with LeBron potentially retiring next season, they'll have Luka Doncic and tons of cap space. But this trade makes sense for Utah because getting Austin Reeves would be huge along with picks. But I don't know if it's the best option for Utah. The Warriors were talked about originally, but after them getting Jimmy Butler, it doesn't make sense. They would be maybe giving up Moses Moody. They would be giving up Jonathan Kuminga, Quinton Post, Brandon Pajemski, and really, I feel like not only is that too much, it's not what the Jazz need because those players are good, but they're solid young role players. The Jazz need to find an identity. They don't have a player who is just their guy yet. And maybe that could be Ace Bailey. Maybe that could be Kyle Filipowski. I mean, he really did look good in Summer League. But as far as we know, the Jazz don't have their star player yet. And I'm not saying Austin Reeves would be that, but Austin Reeves could easily score 25 points per game with the Utah Jazz. Okay, then you have teams like I see the Toronto Raptors, right? Because while this would be risky for Toronto, they would be giving up tons of picks and almost guaranteed RJ Barrett for contract. Imagine a lineup of Emmanuel Quigley, Brandon Ingram, Lauri Markkanen, Scotty Barnes, and Jakob Poeltl. That would be a dominant starting five. It would be big, and there's no problem on offense, right? Ingram is a solid shooter. Lowry is a great shooter. Scotty Barnes is a decent shooter. So honestly, it would make sense for Toronto offensively. The only problem is defensively, they're just a little too big. And being big is good on defense. However, when you're guarding a bunch of smaller, shiftier guards, having Quickly as your only small guard would be a little tricky for that. Like the defense would be a bit of a nightmare, and giving up tons of picks plus RJ Barrett, like it would be the package I would want the Jazz to get. Because getting RJ Barrett, who could be really good for Utah, he's younger, getting a bunch of Raptors picks, which if this doesn't work out, Toronto would be in a pretty bad place. The only issue I see with this is it kind of gives me Kevin Durant, Phoenix Suns vibes, right? They have their star young player, Devin Booker, which in this case would be Scotty Barnes. Then they get Kevin Durant, which I guess would be Brandon Ingram. Obviously, they don't give up as much, but then they got Bradley Beal, and I guess that would be more like Ingram. So it would be flipped, but they get Bradley Beal for extremely cheap with his contract, and then they just have so much salary that they can't build a team around them. Like they have three really good players because on paper, Kevin Durant, Devin Booker, and Bradley Beal is really, really good, but with no bench, with no front court, it just did not work. And I feel like that could happen in this situation. Who else could get him? You look at the Pacers because the Pacers would have guys that Utah would want. They have a few picks. And if next year they had Pascal Siakam, Lauri Markkanen, and Tyrese Halliburton, that would be pretty amazing. But really, I don't think the Jazz will trade Lowry because if they were going to trade them, they probably would have done it already, right? They would have waited till the end of EuroLeague, so we don't know yet, but I think if they were even open to trading him, it would have happened earlier in the offseason. But let me know what you think. Let me know where you think he could go. You also look at teams, like you could see a team in the West. The West, the salary situation doesn't make sense. The East is wide open, so getting a player like Lauri Markkanen could be huge. You could see the Atlanta Hawks, right? But they would have to give up one of Zachary Reese or Jalen Johnson, and I just don't see them giving that up for Lowry. Let me know what you think, and see you next time on No Bias Hoops. Thank you so much for watching.